All right.
All right, everybody. Progress. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. First item is to discuss the formal agenda. Do we have any questions or comments on the formal agenda? Commissioner Webb?
Do we usually expect organizations like the, sorry, I'm having the part of my brain that I injured is the part clearly where all of the things that are stored that people's first and last names together. I can usually come up, like with a Mark Evans or, but I can't always put those together. And the other thing are acronyms. So, the Graham Flags Group.
Yeah, the Watershed Council.
The Watershed. Yes. Do we expect folks like that to come to us like annually or?
I mean, with a lot of those, it's just based on when they want to, but usually annually. Yeah, because Graham came within the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It was probably 4 or 5 months ago.
Well, I thought he said it was over a year.
I don't think it's been a year, but
I trust your man.
yeah, but
Okay.
we can,
Because he
can
asked.
check, yeah. But yeah, usually if they're ready, they can just reach out to Teresa and we will put them on.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Because one of the things that that now that I'm a member of Crest, that there are so many different organizations doing riparian repair work. And I was asking Graham about that, and did we need to see a bigger picture or some, and of course his response was, of course, if you want to, we can do something. So maybe that's something we can talk about.
Yeah, we can talk about that, and then
Because it is
we can
several
reach out to Graham if that's something that the
Yeah.
board would like to get more information on.
Because there really is a lot of it going on. I mean,
Mhm.
considering, it is related, I just learned to the tide gate issue as well.
Mhm.
So, just kind of an overall look might be something worth our taking a look at,
Okay.
especially as we start dealing with climate,
Yeah.
sea level rise and stuff like that.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Are there anything on the agenda? Any other discussion items, comments on the agenda this evening? Not for this evening. Commissioner Took.
Future agenda schedule. We talked about it before, but is there an opportunity for public to facilitate public discussion for like Esperanza? I'm still getting a lot of inquiries. I wish I'd include in my report, my commission report, but I think a lot of people would just like to have the venue for public discussion since there was none provided in the seaside, and they would like to have a forum and open it up to that. So can we facilitate that as a county?
I think that certainly that's something that we can talk to the board about and talk to the city about. Because I think if we're gonna do it, I would suggest that the city be at least involved and present. But I mean, one of the things that counties do is we do convene. So I can reach out to the city and talk with them, so.
Anything else on the rolling calendar here, the agenda through September 2024? Kind of see what's outlined for work sessions. Nothing? Okay, then we'll move on to our next item, which is the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan Goals 16, 17, and 18 update. David Cook, our senior planner, is here from Community Development. Welcome, David.
So I prepared a little rundown for the presentation, so if I'm
Perfect.
a little distance at this close table, it's because I'm reading up for this.
You're not going to go through what you gave us?
I'm going to go through that
Oh, okay.
again.
Okay.
All right, good afternoon, commissioners. So you may remember that Community Development Department recently went through the process of updating a lot of the county's comprehensive plan goals 1 through 14 and 19. We're now in the thick of updating goal 16, which is estuarine resources, 17 coastal shorelands, and 18 beaches and dunes. These 3 goals have had some additions made to them, but no major revisions for close to 40 years. We've hired the Columbia River Estuary Study Task Force, or CREST, to assist in the update process. We've hosted 1 public meeting and 1 technical advisory committee meeting to go over the update process. The Technical Advisory Committee, or TAC, is primarily a group of professionals from the state, county, our cities, special districts, and specific interest groups. We intend to host 2 more TAC meetings and 2 more public meetings to better understand focus areas Clatsop County residents are most concerned with. We don't have any draft product or policies yet. So while we're at this stage of the process, we're really interested to see if your board has any special concerns or interests in a particular policy that we could incorporate into the goal update. For example, cable landings, shoreline armoring, dredge material disposal sites, beach public access. These are the kind of topics that would fit into at least one of these 3 goals. So this presentation was intended to be sort of like a fact-finding mission to see if your board has any particular area you'd like us to look into, or any particular policies you'd like for us to attempt to address in this goal update process. These goals are rather dense, like goal 16 and 17 especially, are like 400 pages together. So we're happy to provide regular updates, like maybe every other month at a work session, if your board would appreciate something like that. We are also happy to include you on an invite to any public meeting that we have moving forward, whether it be in person or virtual. As far as the materials that have been added into your packets, there are a few pages that were, and maybe I have it up in here so I can just tell you exactly what pages we are. So page 5 and 6 of your agenda packet is just like the very top introduction to goals 16 and 17. I included these just to try and give you an understanding of the sort of complicated and widespread policies that go into goals 16 and 17. Agenda pages 7, 8, and 9 are actually the entirety of goal 18, beaches and dunes. So it's mercifully brief by comparison. And then the following pages 10 through page 10 through 22 are some pages from some slides that our contractor CREST have created and have been dispersing in our public meetings and our technical advisory committee meetings, which I think just give a really good overview of some of the goals, challenges, and the goals of what we would like to do in this update process. So if your board has any particular areas of interest, I will be taking notes and I will pass them on to our staff and CREST.
Okay. Open it up to the board. Anything you'd like to, I think Commissioner Thompson? Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, sir. Well, absolutely. I have my hand raised. Yes, please invite me to your meetings. Yes, please, let's talk about shoreline armoring. Let's talk about dunes and sea level rise and beach access and all of that, because it's hot topics all up and down the coast. So thank you for doing this work, and thank you for the invitation to ask for an invitation.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Toyoka?
As one comment on just a lot of background information you provided, and I don't pretend to be any expert, like a background and degree in ocean engineering. So I was looking at some of this stuff, and I know we talk about the Cascadia and some of the structure of how the zones can affect our coastal regions. And I kind of just more research with NOAA, just looking at what we've learned in the past couple of decades. It's not as linear as it was once thought. It's more dynamic because the plates are not aligned north, south, east, west.
Sure.
The plates are very irregular in its shape, the depth. So when we're looking at our planning, it's especially when you're looking at, buffering shoreline structures, how do we prevent against, some of the tsunami events? A lot of it, to me, read as linear planning instead of, we got to look at the dynamic forces and not just line up on a shoreline, but maybe look at the effects of where the, surge come from, look at the topography under the water, where the dynamic forces act, and then kind of base our planning on that, not just a linear profile. So that's one takeaway.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. Very, very, very much. Because we know from the new sea level rise data, that it is not only change, but it is changing. It's a dynamic.
no, you're right. It's we have to keep it a dynamic, but
Commissioner Webb?
Well, needless to say, of course. I have several comments. I appreciated very, very much, actually, the inclusion of some of the original data. Because I think that just as with our area plans, I was so very pleased at the way there was a lot of historical depth to them. And I think that these are so complex just for anybody, even for a planner. And that I really appreciate it. I think the language could have been cleaned up. We speak a little bit differently now than we did 40 years ago. And but I do think that background, especially the definitions of, there are probably going to be people who don't know what an estuary is. And that leads me to a couple of questions. First of all, it wasn't clear to me what were newly things that were prepared by Preston, what wasn't. So I didn't know what I was looking, I didn't know what it was. But especially now that I know so much more about what Crest has been doing in terms of the estuary mapping, to what extent will we actually be mapping? Will we not be doing it like this, or like, I can't, the other ones, this one? One of the things that I've learned, for instance, one of the things I was a little bit surprised about in your materials was that there wasn't any reference to dredging and to dredging spoils. And I'm surprised, because I would think that would be part of the estuary. Because it's, and that certainly is ever changed tonight. I mean, we've got our Hayek thing, and that's, I think, around some point, especially, that's going to continue to happen. So is that a consideration? Am I right that should be a part of the estuary things?
Commissioner Webb, yeah, so dredging and dredge material disposals are a piece of goal 16.
17, use and activity policies, dredging and dredge material disposal. So that's one of them.
So they're in there. They have a whole section. It's kind of commonly referred to as the dredge material management plan. It takes a number of pages on its own.
Even though we don't actually manage that.
Well, yeah, we don't manage it, but we do the permitting for it.
So that's another.
If the Corps is following the regulations they should, then the county comprehensive plan would be germane to what the Corps does. And so it's just getting the Corps to recognize local comprehensive plans.
That's the big issue. That's the big issue. So for the things, and like I say, I couldn't tell what the source was. I couldn't tell what had been produced by. I was just very confused about the material that we were using. I too, I mean, I would like to know every time there's both a TAC and a public meeting. I definitely want to know about that. I would also like to see a list of the people who are on the TAC. And ahead of time, I'd like to see the agendas and what's being covered. especially on both of those groups' meetings. I was particularly, interested in the extent, like I say, to which Crest is going to delineate areas for us. I know, for instance, the Brownsmead area, is highly flexible.
Mhm.
That's not the right word, but it changes over time, depending on events, storms, and all that. So, I think, and I definitely would love to have, because of the way that we had to do during COVID, the rest of the comp plan, it would be really cool if we could do this. And, we're giving Crest an enormous amount of money here. So I'm assuming that a lot of the delineations should be specific and that there should be some mapping. Does our GIS system interface with the work that's being done here?
It does, yeah. So one of the real primary goals is having updated maps that reflect current conditions on the ground, not 40-year ago conditions when the plans were originally created. And then having a file that interfaces with GIS so that these new maps and new layers can be loaded and viewed by anybody digitally.
Great. And I think my last question is about the cities, the involvement of the cities, especially our coastal cities.
Mm-hmm.
I think their participation in this is awfully critical.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming that they're on the technical advisory committee, or
They have either been invited as a member of the public meeting, so they get a direct invitation, or they're a member of the technical advisory.
do we have any sense for how much work they have done? I know we've got new planners in a couple of cities, and have they really taken a very aggressive or deep dive into?
As far as participating in this process?
Well, as far as participating in the technical aspects, they have to, their comp plans have to include the same things.
Yeah, I don't think they've participated dramatically in any fashion, but we're still kind of early in the process, so.
I just think it's something we really should be very cooperative with them about.
Yeah. I'd be happy to send them a more personal email rather than sort of mass email.
I think that would be a nice idea. And,
I can also mention it to the city managers, when we meet with them, just to make sure that they know. I just think it's like a lot of things, their limited planning staff is over prescribed and they're trying to deal with a lot of city inertia, so. But I will certainly reach out to the city managers, so.
I think that's, especially the coastal issue.
Sure.
So.
Oh, hi, Commissioner Banks. Did you have something you wanted to interject at this time? No? Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Thompson? Well, I appreciate.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I do appreciate the discussion because this is the up and coming issue and there are so many ramifications that we could spend probably 3 hours just talking about those. Let's continue the conversation and appreciate what staff is doing and look forward to our continued discussions.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Do we have a timeline on how often the TACs will meet and how long the process will go? Or
As far as the next TAC meeting, well, we're hoping for 2 more. I would not think that we would have it in the next month, but we do need to sort of nail down a time frame. So we'll certainly let your board know about what the next meeting date is. And as far as finalization, I think our original goal was to have it done by the end of this year, but things have taken a little longer than it's expected, so we'll probably run into 2025.
okay.
Where is Crest in its scope of work?
Precedent scope of work is in the data organization and procurement phase. So they've been interfacing a lot with state staff to understand where's the most recent data that's already been made, so they don't have to duplicate efforts.
Thank you.
Anything else? I think we're good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Good work. And next is Northwest Oregon Works. And welcome.
Thank you.
See the presentation.
Mr. Chair, thank you so much for having me, Madam Vice Chair and Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Toyoka, and Commissioner West. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I want to know, you to know that if I don't have answers for you today, because we put this together rather quickly, I will get them to you as quickly as I can. And I can share this PowerPoint slide, and I also have a one pager of really fun anecdotes.
Great.
Yeah, that are happening in Clatsop County.
Super.
So,
I'm gonna steal this picture. So I don't have to do this thing.
all right, very good. So Northwest Oregon Works at the local workforce development board serving Columbia, Clatsop, Tillamook, Lincoln, and Benton counties. So I am, my plan is to start to do these presentations to you on a more frequent cadence, rather than never, which is what the cadence has been prior. I just want to get started. You can go ahead and, okay, thank you. I can do that. So I just want to take you through the table of contents. I know I have 15 minutes, so if I'm talking too fast, either stop me and ask what the acronyms are that I'm giving you. So we want to talk a little bit about what workforce development boards do. A lot of people don't know we exist. We'll talk about the 23-24 spending that took place in Clatsop County from a variety of funding streams. We'll talk about Clatsop County youth and the work we're doing with them in the Clatsop County behavioral health programs. We'll give you the highlights of those. So this is the state map of the local workforce development boards. I always like to give the example that Nevada has two. Nevada is where I'm from, started doing this work in 2000. There's two local boards, one in the north and one in the south. California has 48 local workforce development boards, so it looks different all over the country. And the state of Oregon has 9 local boards, and you can see that 2 of them are massive, but there's a lot of frontier in there. We have a very diverse, wonderful local area. I just love the region that I serve, and so we'll take you through some of the stuff we're doing here. So I want to give you a little bit of an education about what workforce development boards are. We're mostly funded. The primary funding source for us is the Department of Labor through the Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act, and you don't have to remember all that, just that it's DOL federal funds. The local boards also receive state fund, general funds for a couple of different funding streams. Local governments, if counties are offering procurement opportunities or funding opportunities, we go after that in philanthropy and private sector. The 9 local boards collectively have 220 plus members. Smallest size that a local board can be is 19. It's very prescriptive from the act. Also, 51% have to be business because the idea is they're locally driven by businesses who have the understanding of what the local workforce needs are. And so if the board can grow very quickly, if you add a business person, you have to add 20 or one more labor person because it's 51% business, 20% labor, and it's also higher education, And then we have a county commissioner from each of the 5 counties who serve on a consortium board that has the ultimate fiduciary responsibility over the board spending and approves the final budget and appoints board members. So not just a list of things that we also do. We have subcontractors, so boards don't do training. I'll show that on the next slide, even though that's what we talk about mostly in public, because that's what the public wants to hear about. But there are other things that the board's responsible for. The boards get the funding, they put it out in contract for boots on the ground. So those staff who receive those fundings to work with the public, both the businesses and the job seekers, live in the work source centers, of which there are 38 across the state. Qualified and successful workers. That's the idea for everything we do. What we are required to do is regional planning. So we have a local plan that we create that's aligned with the state local plan. We do resource coordination. What's not on here, and I don't know why, is convening. We're huge conveners of all kinds. We work very closely. We've got 5 community colleges in this region. If you consider PCC OMIC in Columbia County, the Clatsop Community College, Tillamook Bay, Oregon Coast Community College, and Lynn Benton Community College. So convening all of those partners, economic development, we do procurement. We have to be on top of our compliance because it's federal dollars, and even when it's other types of funding, obviously compliance, tracking, reporting, all those things are critical. And then just a list of best practices. I won't take you through it and read it, but there's a lot of things that we do as local boards. You'll see down in the corner, there's a logo that says Oregon Workforce Partnership. The 9 local boards in the state of Oregon have formed an association called Oregon Workforce Partnership. We're a 501c3. I currently serve as the chair on that organization. And we meet weekly. We have legislative consultants who help us with our legislative messaging to try to bring funding into our regions. I was able to get maritime funding under that, with that work. So that's serving here in Clatsop County. So program year 23-24 funding so far. Let's see, don't think anything's cut off there. We adult funds, so WIOA, Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act. It says adult, but it really also includes dislocated workers. We've served 93, we've spent 93,523 roughly in WIOA, ARPA, and rapid response funding streams. Rapid response is utilized when there's a closure, of which Clatsop County has seen a bunch, unfortunately. So we provide services to the laid off and affected workers, services to the businesses. We have ways to help with layoff aversion if that's if there's an opportunity to do that, if it's not too far down the road. So we try to do that every time we can. 39 completed individual training accounts, and that means classroom training. So we work closely with Clatsop Community College and pay for tuition costs. And 6 on-the-job trainings. These don't seem like big numbers, but in small rural communities, they're pretty big numbers. And you'll see the list of employers that we have helped with. And this is a living document. So these are moving numbers. On-the-job trainings provide an employer the opportunity to hire someone, and we reimburse 50% of the person's salary or wage for 30, 60, 90 days, however long it takes them to acclimate to the job and learn some skill sets. So that's always we love OJTs. And so our youth program, thank you for moving that around. So we've enrolled 19 new youth participants, including 6 who are doing work experience. Work experience is something where you take a young person usually, or a displaced homemaker is also another type of person that would be in a work experience, who's never had any experience working, literally, and that's what it means. They need to learn how to clock in and talk to their supervisor and dress appropriately and make eye contact and all of those things. And that's those work experiences are paid 100% of the youth's wage for a contracted amount of time. There's no requirement that that young person be hired, as there is for on-the-job trainings where the expectation is that person will be hired. So Logan Garner is our youth programs manager, and he's doing some really fun stuff. He works closely with the Title II department at Clatsop Community College, helping students get their GED, including Spanish-speaking students. Our funds pay for prep books, test fees, caps and gowns, and participate in the Clatsop County graduation ceremony, which is fun. Logan's also bringing a program to Clatsop County with our maritime funds, which are to bring boat kits for CTE instructors and welding instructors to teach people how to do aluminum welding. So these will be sound vessels that can go in the water. They're not going to be complete in terms of upholstery and all of that, but and the students get to learn how to weld, working on these vessels, creating something. I'm kind of playing around with Tony, our board chair, who is with Oregon Aero. They do a lot of upholstery for federal contracts for aerospace. And I talked to him today about possibly having a partnership where we can put interns into his shop to do the upholstery. Cool. Yeah, which would bring in more. And then the boats would then, we would sell them once they were up and running, make a profit, put it right back into the program, because we're a nonprofit. So we would put it right back into the programs, making it sustainable. Can I ask you to show? I'm sorry, career and technical education. So, and then we're really, really proud of our behavioral health program. In fact, I'm going in front of the work group established by Senate Bill 2235. That might be wrong. I can get the right number, but they're trying to figure out, Oregon Health Authority is trying to figure out how to spend some of their money and invest in behavioral health, which the governor has indicated is one of her top priorities. And so we've served 17 participants in Clatsop County so far. $120,782 have gone into that for education and supportive services costs, including anything you can imagine: childcare, groceries, gas, student loans, rent, tuition. So we're really excited about that program. We're creating clinicians. And then just some of the highlights. So 21 participants, we've trained for crane safety and later for rigging safety training with a Clatsop County boat builder. We've collaborated with Clatsop Community College Small Business Development Center on cohorts. This empowered 4 local restaurant bar owners to take their training, their business training to a new level. 7 level 1 management professionals and 9 advanced management course graduates. 7 medical assistants also through Clatsop Community College. 13 Clatsop Community College nursing students, and we're doing a lot of CDL training for the logging industry and the milk trucks and all of the things that are in our region. So all the relevant stuff. Commissioner Webb asked me to call out some of our partnerships. Here they are, both private and public sector. This is not an exhaustive list. This was what we came up with right away to get this presentation to you. But you can see we've got businesses up there who've benefited from the on-the-job training programs. And several of those businesses have staff people that sit on our board. So they're represented from the county, including Pig and Pancake, Zach Poole, WCT Marine, Kirsten Salmi, and Pacific Seafood, Whitey Forsman all sit on our board.
Burgerson Construction.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's it. I hope I didn't go too fast, but I wanted to be cognizant of my time. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. Do we have any questions or comments at this time?
I love these guys. This, I can tell you that this is part of, I mean, I have enjoyed working with these folks, taking me back to my economic development days, and I've been involved with workforce development for my whole career, and it's very exciting. It's really cool to be on the local level with this, you know, with some of the stuff. I spent so much time at the federal and regional level, and this is so exciting to, and I hope I'm going to be meeting with some of the community college people and going through their budget and seeing what we can do to help them out and kind of keep at it. One of my favorites, I'm going to tell a story on you grouped together the ARPA money with what was the main funding stream?
The Department of Labor, federal funds?
Well, that's just, I guess it's because that's what we
Are
kind
you
of.
talking about Future Ready Oregon?
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the things that someone at the community colleges has praised about this partnership is that one of the things that nobody has asked them over the years is what do you need that you're not getting? And one of the things that a lot of the people at the local level needed was cash. They needed one of the service providers at Clatsop says, you know, we have all these streams of things. We can pay tuition, we can do, you know, but now she says, now we have cash that we can use at our choice. Because because sometimes what people need is bus fare home, or they need to fill up their car with gas, and they can use this money for that. And it's one of those things that I mean, she cried when she told me this, because she said, this is what we need. We need, you know, they trust us with this because sometimes somebody just needs, like I say, $25 to fill up their car with gas to get to work. And it's just, she says it's opened up. It's really opened up their
scope.
Yeah, well, and their toolbox.
Yeah.
You know, because it's something that's okay to do. The other thing, Heather, that I'd like you to talk about is equity. Can you talk a little bit about
Sure. Mr. Chair, did you want to take questions first from?
Yeah, I have Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Bangs waiting too, so let's have Commissioner
Hands up.
Thompson.
No, Commissioner Banks goes first. She's the professional educator currently. I'll stand behind her.
Well, I appreciate that, Commissioner Thompson. I actually just wanted to hear a little bit more about the SB 2235 funding. It's the first that I've heard that we actually have some actionable, funding coming from that. So could you just, explore that just a little bit more for me?
Sure, to the extent that I have knowledge about it. And again, I hope so maybe I should clarify that I'm not certain that that's the number. So what is your understanding of that bill? And I'll let you know if that's.
So the understanding of that bill, and I'm thinking it's the same thing, is HB 2235, which was funding that was going to go towards work groups in the state of Oregon to explore capacity concerns in behavioral health. And so I'm hoping that is the direction that we're headed, and that it was just I'm hoping that that's the direction we're headed.
I'm thrilled that I got the number right. And yes, you're correct. So that bill essentially established working groups specifically for behavioral health. OHA, Oregon Health Authority, is tasked with putting that together. So they've got members of OHA. They've got, we've been working with a CCO from not Colpac. We work with Colpac CCO. But we also, this is with, Pacific Source CCO. So this working group is tasked with doing exactly what you said. We've got these funds, where should they go? How should they best be utilized for behavioral health? And myself, Kim Parker-Joannis and Heather Ficht, two other workforce board directors, all have had successful behavioral health programs. So they approached us to ask us to put together a presentation as a potential place to put some of these funds, because we are spry, we're nimble, we get money out the door, we manage federal and state local contracts every day, all day. So that presentation is taking place July 17th. If I believe it's a public meeting, so if anyone will want to see that, I can also send out the PowerPoint presentation, probably not before I do use it with that group, but as soon as it's appropriate, I can send that out, and gives a really great outline of all of the stuff happening.
Well, I really appreciate it. And I know my fellow commissioners know this, but I'm going to toot my daughter's horn for an amendment on that bill that was to include pediatrics and was to include rural counties. And so I hope that this work group convening can do a little bit of a deep dive into what do our kids in our community need. Maybe even asking our kids personally. Maybe it's convening a kid work group to see like what are they thinking, what do they need. I'm just putting it out there, but I am so glad to hear that something is actually happening on the flip side, because this was the long session of 2020. Yeah, so it's 2 years later, or a year and a half later, but I love hearing this, so I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. And if I'm afforded the opportunity to share your thoughts about the pediatric aspect, I will definitely do so.
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, sir. Well, isn't it just the best, most, I want to say, inspiring and satisfying meeting to go hang out with you, Heather. It feels good, but the best part is the essential part you provide in the supply chain in the workforce. What I'm hoping is that if we're looking at the whole system of economic development, is that you're feeding information into LCDC and into all of the other areas where we're looking at OHA and DHS and all of that. Do I trust that you are integrated in all of that and responding to all of that, as well as doing what Commissioner Bangs suggested and digging deep into our community so that our kids would have a chance to tell us what they need and want?
I can tell you, as I mentioned earlier, that convening is one of the most important jobs that a local board does. And in order to convene, you have to have established relationships, which is my favorite part of this job. Because when you've made partners through organic relationships with meetings and phone calls and convening, and they need a letter of support for a grant they're writing, and we need a letter of support. There are times we're both going after the same grant and we swap. So not to get off base from what you asked me, but yes, I am in touch with, and we do have a watchdog group, those legislative consultants that look for all things legislative, House bill, Senate bill that have to do with workforce. And we follow up and we track them. So we are trying to keep our finger on the pulse of any way that we can stay involved with those things.
Any other questions? I know that we've got about 2 minutes and maybe a follow-up on what Commissioner Webb asked earlier.
Did you want me to talk about Equus?
Yes,
Okay.
just, yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So Equus is our subcontractor. I mentioned earlier that we don't pay for the training. We procure contracts with outside organizations. Equus Workforce Solutions is our service provider in Columbia, Clatsop, and Tillamook counties. So they have staff in the workforce centers and they deliver those services. They're very well known in the community. We are having our board meeting. We rotate them from each county. We are giving our board meeting this Friday from 10 to 12 at Clatsop Community College here in Astoria. So you're all welcome to come. You'll hear all kinds of presentations from the work that's being done and the people being served and Equus and the boots on the ground and all of that stuff. It's always very heartwarming. We have a great board and we have a great fun because what we do is impactful and it's good, it's good heartfelt work. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
From Executive Director of
Yes.
Northwest Oregon Works. Appreciate the update. And
Thank you.
hope to have you back soon.
Thank you.
And hear more.
I will come back. Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
the time.
you.
I'd like to mention that Heather got caught in a traffic jam
Yeah, it was bad today.
for an hour. And
Yeah.
so a real trooper hasn't even
Yeah,
checked
thank
into
you
it.
again for braving the traffic. Okay. Last item is the regional solution update. We've got the colorful Nate Stice to deliver that for us. I know, you always did. I know. And Nate is the regional solutions coordinator. So welcome, Nate. For being here.
Thank you, Chair Quila and commissioners for having me here this evening. I think I've met all of you through events in the community. I'm Governor Tina Kotek's Regional Solutions Coordinator for the North Coast region. I think you all probably have some familiarity with regional solutions. It's got a long tradition and history in Oregon. It's the governor's collaborative approach to community and economic development. It was formalized during the Kitzhaber administration, but actually had many iterations going all the way back to Tom McCall. It's really born out of a partnership with the counties and wanting to make sure that we have the state here and ready to help communities meet their community and economic development goals. I've been in the North Coast position for a little bit over a year now, and I'm just impressed with the North Coast team and a lot of the team members that you've worked with over time. Including Melanie Olson, Melissa Draper. We stole Brett Estes from the city of Astoria not too long ago. So you really do have the A team on the ground here helping to move forward community projects. So I asked for this time from Don, who I talk with frequently, to give you a little bit of an update on what regional solutions have been doing, but then also I'm the governor's eyes and ears on the ground, so I wanted to take a minute just to listen to you and hear what you're thinking about and how I might be helpful on projects and priorities for the community. So the team has been very busy on the North Coast over the last year or so. One of our standing practices is to go out to communities and say, we're from the government, we're here to help. And it's mostly to other governments. So there's another side of that joke there too. In the last year or so, we've done outreach meetings, sit down with the city of Seaside, Gearhart, Warrenton, and Astoria, and discussed a variety of concerns and issues. And, I've worked in following up on some of those. One of the ones that is just on my mind right now is we heard from the city of Gearhart about concerns about population forecast out of PSU, which echo things across the state. So we've elevated that. We're going to be meeting with PSU to discuss those concerns and figure out how we can do better. Warrenton, we got engaged in the levees and dikes there. And I need to follow up with you on what the next steps are to hear where we're at, sort of that process. In Astoria, we've been pulled into a variety of things, the same with Seaside. A couple, just to highlight for the county that happened recently, we had a meeting with the owner and the team around Bradwood Landing, which is, I think, a piece of land that is still zoned industrial. We discussed a variety of options and constraints on that site, and hopefully connected the owner with some folks who might be able to help them think about a path forward towards utilization of the property, maybe not towards its current zoning. It's a beautiful piece of land. If you ever been out there, we also at our mid-month team meeting last month met with your public works department to talk about Westport and the Westport bypass road. And I think we suggested that they go through an early coordination process and gave them some feedback on thinking about permitting for that project. But I would just say, I don't think they needed it. I think your public works department had it well in hand. So one of the larger projects that I've been working on overall in my work right now is seafood. I know entirely too much about seafood waste processing at the moment. We've been working. I've been working to make sure that DEQ is receiving feedback on the impacts to industry of their new regulations, but also been trying to find a route that helps solve everyone's problems on this front. In particular, there's a project that my predecessor launched with the county to do a biodigester out of Warrenton. So we continue to find opportunities to support that project. And I just heard from Monica that you all received a forgivable loan on that front. And then the other piece of this puzzle is really working with the Port of Astoria on Pier 2 and that large project. That's been one of Regional Solutions projects over time that we've worked on and been engaged with. The port, I'm grateful that they stepped up and are looking at how they can help with processing and the treatment of wastewater coming off the processing plants. And so we are working with them in DEQ to figure out how we can align the regulatory processes with the opportunity to have a shared treatment, which would be better for industry, probably better for the environment if the design we're talking about can come to fruition, and maybe provide capacity elsewhere for other industries as well down the field. So that's one large one. And then the other large project that we just talked about a couple of weeks ago is the Columbia Memorial Hospital expansion, and thinking about how we can help find. I actually think that the FEMA grant might have come out of a Regional Solutions conversation.
Well, it was one of, we've had several
Long time ago.
advance, yeah.
Yeah, we've seen about how we can think about how we can find matching funds for that FEMA grant.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation with the hospital and some of my colleagues in the governor's office about some opportunities there. So hopefully that will find a path to support that project. Yeah. So that's a flavor of what we've been up to in Clatsop County. I'll mention one more thing more broadly that I think applies to like every county, not just in the North Coast region, but in the state. Regional Solutions has been involved in a variety of shit shows, and we'll use some colorful language in this meeting because you have to like use humor when you're talking about small special districts processing poop or cities. We've just been running into a variety of concerns about the capacity of smaller districts around, in particular, workforce. Lots of cities and smaller special districts are having trouble finding certified wastewater operators. We're also running into, and I know you've had some issues here, just basic governance issues, finding board members, getting the books in place. Mostly in Tillamook at the moment, we're engaged in some conversations around what some solutions to that might be, and it's really high level and led there by Commissioner Olson. But it also has been work that the team's been engaged in over time. You know, I often get the call when I'm X and Y city, I won't name any, but you can probably think about the ones I'm talking about now, can't get their audits in place and therefore can't receive state funding. Or X, Y, and Z water district had half their board resign. So the team has been, I would say at this point, scoping what engagement there might look like. We're talking to Willamette Partnership, who's doing some work on this subject. Willamette Partnership is basically a not-for-profit consultancy, one of the EPA technical service centers right now. So there's some funding to work on some of these pieces. We're talking to them about some of the solutions on the operators front. Specifically for wastewater, we've engaged our sister organization, Oregon Solutions, to do an assessment on a project, a statewide project, to think about how we make sure all of the people who are thinking about better running this shit show. Last time I'll say that, I promise. Are actually
installed
talking
the
to each other.
beep button, we can blur out all the profanity.
3-second delay.
And actually, the other Heather I get to work with, and then our central region mentioned that she mentioned some of the conversations we had with OAWU, Oregon Association of Water Utilities, and they're connected into the workforce system. So that is a flavor of what the team has been up to, and I know that my colleagues, in particular, Melanie and Melissa, everywhere beyond that, like I think just about every conversation anyone's having about infrastructure, regulatory pieces, and I know Brett's engaged in housing work, code, and the EOA that's going on here is keeping me apprised of that. So, are there any questions about what we've been up to?
Yeah, well, I'll open it up to the rest of the commission, but I would just say, of any project of significance, it's, Regional Solutions have been a part of it. I mean, so many of these things require a lot of coordination amongst a lot of government agencies, state agencies. And I just really appreciate the role that Regional Solutions plays. It's been great to work with you, Nate, too, in your position as coordinator. And I know you've done a revamping, or I guess you have a new membership of the Regional Solutions kind of steering committee, but that's, I think making it a little more efficient and maybe leaner and meaner going forward.
Yeah, so we did just have a revamping of the Regional Solutions Advisory Committee. So Regional Solutions has two entities that sort of help to governance work and influence work. So the one is the Advisory Committee, which is a group of high-level stakeholders. Governor Kotek wanted to and I will take some credit for this. In the last administration, the Advisory Committee sort of went dormant through COVID and other things. And so, that was a product of coordinators at the time and the governor's office focusing on other things like public health crises. And so, the Kotek administration inherited advisory committees that were sometimes staffed, had people who'd been on there for a long time without any set lengths of terms, some that had gone up to 30 or 40 members. So we really want to take a look at it and think about how we can make them more efficient. The advisory committees are tasked with sort of two things historically in statute: setting regional priorities around community and economic development. In every case, we worked closely with the economic development districts on that. And then secondly, they were tasked with giving out money if there was any through the regional infrastructure fund, which I don't anticipate there being in the future. And then thirdly, sort of more informally, they're tasked with helping the team, Melanie's, Melissa's, Brett's, and Nate's of the world figure out where we should be spending our time. what through like the priority setting process. So in thinking about how we best do that, in Kotek administration, they decided to look at the advisory committees, think about what their functions were, and think about how we make them more streamlined and efficient. So we just went through the process to revamp them. And the North Coast Advisory Committee, and we took them back down to just the statutorily defined governor appointed positions. And so and the North Coast, I knew I should have brought the list in front of me.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I've got Toddler looking right now. Michelle Bradley at the Port of Tillamook Bay will be the convener of the group. I think folks are familiar with Michelle and her work, and she's currently, I think, the chair of the Special Districts Association of Oregon. For the League of Oregon Cities, Henry Balanceifer will be the representative that was, and both AOC and LOC get to weigh in and tell us who they want in these seats, and gave the governor a couple choices. So Henry, Mayor Balanceifer will be in that role. For AOC, Commissioner Scar from Tillamook. For the philanthropy representative, we will have former Senator Betsy Johnson, who agreed. Well, I'm grateful she agreed to continue to serve on the advisory committee in that role. For the business representative, we'll have Lindsay Davis with Hampton Lumber.
Fantastic.
For a tribal representative, we haven't locked that down yet, but we were looking for someone who's representative of a federally recognized tribe, and Curtis Baker with the Silettes has a service territory covered from Tillamook County. And then for a CBO seat, Viviana Matthews.
Yeah.
With lots of community action has agreed to serve, continue to serve in the committee. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, our
so
region's
lots of county representatives.
well represented on there.
Yeah.
Did pretty good. Top of your head.
Yeah, well, spent a lot of time thinking about these names, so.
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, sir. Nate, as the chair said so sweetly to you, you're a great partner in this. Now I want to ask for more, okay? When we're looking at water, could we also please look at the water districts? Because it isn't just waste water, it's stormwater and fresh water. And if it's a municipal district, they've got a better chance. These small local districts, it's an uphill struggle for those community volunteers. So if you can help keep them in mind. The fiscal piece, the fiscal accountability piece, maybe you and Heather Desart can help this. Every liaison I have is talking about the difficulty in finding auditors. So if you all can collaborate on helping us have more auditors on the ground, it's a big problem. The third thing is we're headed in the coming week to the to the funding stream where we've gone before, and Clatsop County has come away, the Connect Oregon money. We've come away with a fairly big chunk of money. I don't know that we're going to be able to do that this time. If we're successful, great. But if we aren't, we're going to have to be knocking on your door to ask you to help us find more money. So I just, heads up, here we come.
So the three projects that came out of the Northwest Act, I was actually talking to Betsy on the drive here about the bar pilots. We're gonna lean on the feds to see what the buoys are there, and I honestly think that $200,000 should be something we can find in another place. And I think it's probably a well-positioned Connect project, given the facts weighing in favor of it. I don't think there's a day I don't think about how I find more funding for Pier 2. And I just like the way I'm talking to anyone about that project, and the many different components of it is just a chance to build on success. It's an opportunity, like that's really the port success, and there's an opportunity to just lean in and do some, not just rebuild a pier, take care of a stormwater problem, take care of a wastewater problem, and stabilize an industry that I know is critical to this area.
Yeah.
And then the third one, Port Westward and the Beaver Dock, which I know is not in your county, but I think probably draws workforce from your county. I think it's probably accurate that Port Westward is I think also well positioned to connect, and we were just out looking at that site last week, talking about large industrial projects that will probably house people in your area when they get through the permitting process.
Yeah.
We have about 1 minute here. Any other comments, questions real quick?
Just a quick one.
Yeah.
I don't know, we talked about housing task force, the cedar, the different, how we would kind of request more coordinated effort from Salem. And now you're the appointed ringleader of the happy show. You know, we've heard when we were talking in housing, how, you know, we have the HCP. There's all these different consequences, you know, when people are upset that they didn't read their own studies about, you know, increased wildfires, endangered species, but the logging aspect, homes, we were focused on building affordable housing. You know, now the price of wood goes up because we have to import it from other places, so the consequence of that, so we were asking for review of HCP so we can build more houses for affordable. And then in Cedar, we're talking about, you know, the wastewater, the treatment, fisheries and breweries, you know, the focus on that. And at the same token, we have other policies in Salem that allow a RV to park and dump raw sewage into our, you know, storm drains. So the two things are not meshing well. So we need to actually, you know, unify it in Salem so we can actually, you know, if you're going to say we're going to focus on housing, but then take away, we're going to focus on clean water, but then we're going to destroy water. So we need to get more balance.
I appreciate the comment, and I know there's a lot that goes into the HCP.
Right.
And I know that this governor is thinking about regulatory structures in housing. I was just talking about wetlands the other day for housing, so it's a completely different subject. I would just say on the wastewater front, in addition to like the local efforts that we're working on here with Pier 2 in the county, I've been giving feedback. Anytime I talk to Don or Monica, I will talk to the advisors who are in different areas, talking about forestry or other, about what I'm hearing on the ground and the implications. So please know that that goes forward. But, you know, one of the pieces of feedback that I think was heard by DEQ was around the waste treatment. And there's been an ongoing set of technical conversations with the seafood processors. I don't know where they'll land to really based on this, like, you know, how do we square the circle? Do we have a shared understanding of what we're talking about? And so those are ongoing and something I've been monitoring very closely, not just because it relates to the local work, because I'm hearing feedback from folks like you about the importance of that industry.
Well, Nate, yeah, I really appreciate all you're doing, and thanks again for coming here and giving us a full update on solution.
Oh, I'm sorry I talk so much. I feel
No. We look forward to having you back.
And my intention is to at least visit with you once a year.
Good.
I'm welcome.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Thanks again. Safe travels. And we'll go ahead and set up for our regular meeting. Wait a minute.
Don't knock me over.
Commissioner Thompson? Commissioner Bangs, can you hear us? Wake up.
Everybody's here.
Okay. And we'll move on to the agenda approval. We had an opportunity to review the agenda during our work session. Do we have any comments, questions? Are we ready to approve the agenda?
Move to approve as listed, as written.
Yep.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. I want to just let everybody know, I know that we have a hard stop for Commissioner Bangs and at 6:30, so we're going to try to move briskly through our agenda this evening. First item is a proclamation for PTSD Awareness Day. And do we have Angel Escobedo joining us?
We don't, he's not here.
Oh, she was supposed to be virtually, and she's not on virtually.
It's a he.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right, do we have any presentation on this?
Sorry, Chair Quila, members of the board, we don't have a substitute presentation. I will just say that, the county, staff is requesting that your board, approve the, proclamation, for June 27th, 2024 as PTSD Awareness Day, and authorize your chair to read and sign the proclamation.
Right, yeah, thank you, County Manager. Do we have a motion?
Approve the resolution and order proclaiming June 27th, 2024 as PTSD Awareness Day, and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation.
We have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming June 27th, 2024 as PTSD Awareness Day, and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming June 27, 2024 to be PTSD Awareness Day, whereas post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, can occur after an adult, youth, or child experiences trauma, and whereas PTSD occurs in all people of any ethnicity, nationality, or culture, and at any age, and about 6 out of every 100 people, or 6% of the U.S. population, will have PTSD at some point in their lives. And whereas women are twice as likely as men to have PTSD, and U.S. Latinos, African Americans, and Native Americans, Alaska Natives, are disproportionately affected and have higher rates of PTSD than non-Latino whites. And whereas combat-related PTSD stress among those in the armed forces is significantly pronounced, given that they are often exposed to highly traumatic events for weeks, months, and even years. And whereas professionals such as law enforcement officers, firefighters, and ambulance personnel, healthcare workers, journalists, divers, sailors, educators, and other professional groups may be subjected to work-related traumatic events. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on mental health, and more negative consequences like PTSD are among vulnerable age groups, including children. And whereas it is important to remember that while trauma may lead to severe distress, that distress is not the individual's fault. And whereas although PTSD is treatable, many cases remain undiagnosed and untreated due to a lack of awareness of this condition and stigma associated with mental health conditions. And whereas many people who have PTSD will recover after treatment, others may have intense, disturbing thoughts and feelings related to their experience that last long after that traumatic event, and may relive that event through flashbacks or nightmares. And whereas the earlier a person gets treatment, the better chance of recovery, raising awareness of this condition is necessary to remove any stigma and to encourage those suffering to seek professional and timely treatment that may improve their well-being or save their lives. Whereas if you yourself experience PTSD or are struggling with a mental health crisis, know that you are not alone. You have a community that cares and will answer when you call for help. It is up to all of us as a community to answer that call. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim June 27, 2024
as PTSD Awareness Day. In Clatsop County, we call upon all community members and local agencies to raise awareness of PTSD, encourage treatment, and offer support. Dated this 26th day of June, 2024. Board of Clatsop County Commissioners. Next is business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except for public hearings, or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the Board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
All right, are there any members of the public signed up to speak in person?
No, there are not.
All right, we'll go ahead and close business from the public and move on to the consent calendar. Do we have a motion on the consent calendar?
I would move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to commissioner reports. We'll start with Commissioner Thompson.
Okay, thank you. I'm here in beautiful Bend because the Department of Land Conservation and Development is holding the LCDC hearing for the next 2 days. It's been a busy little period of time. I didn't go on the farm tour today because I was in the farms last week in Hermiston in the heat and the dust. It was illuminating, but it was tiring, I want to tell you. I went to the Eastern Oregon Women's Economic Development Conference. I asked Commissioner Magruder while we were there together in Hermiston if she wanted to have one in Western Oregon, but she said not this week. So we're still contemplating that. It's a very effective community organizing tool and community promotion tool. Legislators, a bunch of them came, state agency people came. It's very powerful to promote a region. So if we could think about doing that, that'd be great. The Joint Committee on Transportation was in Tillamook last week, and I got to be on the bus. Thank you, Senator Weber. We were part of the roundtable discussion. I've committed as co-chair of the Governance and Revenue Committee at AOC that Commissioner Garrett, my co-chair, and I will welcome those transportation funding conversations in the venue of those committee meetings. So that's going to be an opportunity for us to continue to talk about what Clatsop County and the whole rest of the state needs. I want to say I was in Cannon Beach Monday. There was a National Incident Management System training put on by county staff. There was a strong feeling on the part of the Cannon Beach leadership that was there, city councilors, the mayor, the planning commission, and others, that we began to engage more proactively to have an integrated county response that helped the leadership, the elected and appointed senior leadership, function effectively during any kind of event. So I want to put that on our awareness. I'd also like to put on our awareness that we have a board retreat. I think we've got some issues going on that require some collective attention by the County Board of Commissioners. I'd like to raise awareness on both those issues and like to see forward progress. That's my report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Appreciate that, and we will put that on the schedule and board retreat sometime later this year. Commissioner Banks.
Good evening, everyone. I participated in a CFTLC meeting last week and a small table group meeting, and I will be again participating in a CFTLC meeting this Friday. So, yeah, it's just things are continuing to evolve, and I'll just keep everyone posted. But I'll pass for this evening just for issues of time.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Toyoka.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to we discussed this in our work session, but I want to bring it up that, having a lot of community discussion about Esperanza project. So in our discussions here, in our commission and the board meeting, talked about facilitating a public forum to bring partners together, City of Seaside, CCA, and ourselves to come together, have a public session so the community can speak in a proper format, open format about this. Some of the issues coming out of this is that research has been done and reports have been published about the findings, identified trends within these type of projects. The concerns, the shelters, the supportive have reduced the property values of the local areas and have increased crime. And there is data from it, even as close as Portland, in similar projects. The research did find that it identified a trend of increased total crime and violent crime within 500 feet of these supported temporary housing areas, noting that the population of these projects tends to be having substance abuse and behavioral health issues. So I think just facilitating that community voice, that if we can do that, facilitate that with all the involved partners, I think that would help a lot within the community of Seaside, just to, instead of having a decision that was made that impacts the community that has no voice.
Yeah.
That would be, so hopefully we can facilitate that.
I think, yeah, I agree, Commissioner Toyoka. It's very important where we cite these, and very important to have some public input on it. Commissioner Webb.
As a member of the CREST board and budget committee, I'd like to happily report that the CREST budget for this coming year is double what it has ever been. And that is primarily because of some very wonderful grant opportunities that they have gone after. And especially wanted me to mention the Deep River projects, which might be of interest to somebody up here. But I've really enjoyed being on the board because their projects are so interesting, and also it's a nice way to get together with some of the folks at the state and federal level who participate in this wonderful state resources, and it's very nice to see. They've assembled a great staff. Obviously they're going to have to increase their staff, and it's been really fun to watch that happen. Just this afternoon, I was on a webinar that is called it's a forward. They're calling themselves Forward Oregon, and it's a group of Move Forward Oregon, and it's a group of nonprofits and other government entities who are getting together to put together a lobbying strategy for the transportation, for the omnibus transportation package that's going to be going to the next big legislature. And I think it's something I might just kind of keep an eye on to see what's happening out there. There's of course a general consensus that the Willamette Valley gets all the money for transportation, and so I think it's a good thing to watch for. They're doing a lot of, I think, very smart lobbying in terms of research, coming up with some innovative programs that are going on in rural areas. The other thing that I really loved about the whole hour-long webinar was that they referred to urban, rural, and coastal counties, which I always appreciate people who do that. So I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for the report, Commissioner Webb. I have nothing to report. County Manager?
Chuck Wheeler, members of the board. I'll be quick. Just wanted to let the board know that it was confirmed today that there will be a special election on July 31st for the recall effort down in Seaside. So that's been confirmed. Just want to thank our election staff. Obviously, it's a busy time with the general election coming up, but we'll be performing the special election as well. Also wanted to mention the Clatsop County elected meeting, which I believe is scheduled for July 11th. at 5:30 over at the fairgrounds. We had talked about this earlier, and the topics will certainly grow, but I know it'll be on the deflection program and probably other topics like FEMA buyout potentially. So that is scheduled. And then I just want to mention that it is the 180th anniversary of the county. And so we are working to have Mac Brown do a little presentation and about the county and its history, and we'll do something. It'll be later in July. I know that one of our breweries did a commemorative beer, and so there'll be some activities, but I just didn't want to leave June without recognizing that it's been 180 years. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Wow, yeah, 180 years. That's awesome. Look forward to tasting the beer. All right, we'll move on to the business agenda. First is the adoption of proposed fee schedule for Clatsop County to be implemented on July 1st, 2024. And Andrew Sullivan, our finance director. Andrew.
Thank you, Chair Aquila, commissioners. Recently, all county departments and staff reviewed the fee schedule for the fiscal year 24-25 to ensure fees are aligned with the associated expenses to provide various public services and to consider any new state mandates that need to be added. Overall, there were relatively minimal changes to the fee schedule. And tonight we bring before your board the fiscal year 24-25 fee schedule for your approval.
All right, thank you very much. Do you have any questions? Are we ready for a motion?
I move that the board adopt the proposed fee schedule to be implemented effective July 1st, 2024, as presented.
And second, moved and seconded that the board adopt the proposed fee schedule to be implemented effective July 1st, 2024, as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Andrew. Next is a fee waiver request for Hayek Marine, and Gail Henriksen, our Community Development Director. Gail.
Hi. Thank you, Chair and members of the board. On June 12th, your board initially discussed the proposed fee waiver by Bob Dorn of Hayek Marine. Hayek Marine is in the process of going through joint permitting with the Army Corps and the state to install a new mobile boat lift. And as part of that project, they would need to dredge approximately 100,000 cubic yards of material, which then has to be disposed of somewhere. The spot that they're preferring at this point in time is just adjacent to Lois Island, but it is not designated as a dredged material disposal site on our comprehensive plan map. So to change that, they would need to apply for that map amendment and then go through a review use approval for that specific project. They have asked that your board consider waiving the $5,865 in application fees for those two applications. And if that is approved, then those funds would be offset from video lottery funds. And I'm here today to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Any questions?
I'm sorry, what was the last sentence?
I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Or if we would offset the funds with video lottery funds, the application fees, if your board were to waive those.
Oh, wow.
So there would not be a net impact on the budget overall.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't remember that when we discussed it before.
So, Chair Quilla, members of the board, if I might, the video lottery dollars are really intended for really economic development activities. And so this, as you know, is a project that has received various funding from various governmental entities. And this request is just part of that overall project development. And so what we would do is just transfer video lottery dollars to make up for that.
Yep.
Excellent.
The only question would be, the only question I have is are we actually waiving fees, or are we actually offsetting fees?
It's technically a waiver for the applicant, but the county will be offsetting that because this is an enterprise fund. So.
Do we have any other questions? Are we ready for a motion?
I would move the board waive application fees for Hayek Marine in the amount of $5,865.
Second.
Moved and second. All right, moved and seconded that the board waive application fees for Hayek Marine in the amount of $5,865. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Gail. Next is the approval of collective bargaining agreement, and Rebecca Cameron, our Human Resources Director. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Quayla, members of the board. The first item I am presenting for board approval this evening is the 24-27 collective bargaining agreement between Clatsop County and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. I would first like to heartfully thank the AFSCME bargaining team and the management representatives for their time and dedication to the collective bargaining agreement. Throughout the process, we had really great conversations emphasizing ways that we can work together to improve the employee experience at Clatsop County. The value of these types of conversations add to the work that the value that they add is vast. So I just can't express enough appreciation for everyone who participated at the bargaining table this year. A few things from the agreement to note. The personal days have increased by half a day from 2 to 2.5 per fiscal year. And once an employee accrues 244 hours of vacation, they can request a payout of 40 hours twice per calendar year, as long as they have vacation scheduled in that time frame also. And then various administrative changes to ensure compliance with updated and ever-changing laws and regulations, including but not limited to paid leave Oregon. And I am here for any questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any questions? Are we ready for a motion?
I move that the board approve the 2024 to 2027 collective bargaining agreement between the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, and authorize the chairman to sign the agreements.
Second. Thompson.
All right. All right. Moved and seconded that the board approve the 2024-2027 collective bargaining agreement between American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, and authorize the chairperson to sign the agreements. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then next is the cost of living adjustment for unrepresented employees. And again, Rebecca.
Yes, thank you again. Last item I have for you this evening is a cost of living adjustment for unrepresented employees. As you know, Clatsop County uses the May to May Consumer Price Index to establish cost of living for all represented staff. This year, the CPI for the allotted time frame was measured at 3.3%. Because of this, all represented staff are receiving a cost of living adjustment of 3.3%, and we respectfully ask that you approve the equivalent adjustment for all unrepresented staff.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? Okay, are we ready for a motion?
I move that the board approve the attached resolution and order implementing a cost of living adjustment of 3.3% for Clatsop County unrepresented, confidential, casual, and contracted employees effective July 1st, 2024.
I second that motion.
Okay, moved and seconded that the board approve the attached resolution and order implementing a cost of living adjustment of 3.3% for Clatsop County unrepresented, confidential, casual, and contracted employees effective July 1st, 2024. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that concludes our business. Do we have anything for the good of the order? All right. We'll go ahead and adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.